welcome to Burn the Map. Today we're speaking with Stephanie Sylvestre. She's an AI entrepreneur and an operator that's focused on kind of human-centered AI, not AI for AI's sake, as they say it, but AI that actually helps people do real work. She's the co-founder of AvatarBuddy, and her through line is pretty consistent. We want to build practical AI agents that remove the busy work and help create space for better thinking, better service, and human growth. She's pretty fun to talk to. She's clearly been there, done that, and been an operator. Fun to talk to. So if you like this one, go ahead, hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and enjoy the episode with Stephanie Sylvestre. Appreciate you. Stephanie, thank you for joining me. I'm excited to talk to you today. We're just chatting a little bit kind of off camera, but I was kind of I'm just going, I looked and I am excited to talk to someone who was also doing this as a joke before it was cool. You've been in this game for like 10 years now. How'd you get started?
I got started by mistake. I was nothing like trying to change the world because you misunderstood somebody. I was at dinner with a friend and I thought she said we should create digital mentors. And I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. That is the solution. That is the solution that I've been looking for. I'm like, yes, we can definitely do that. And she's like, no, that's not what I said. I was like, it doesn't matter because this is the solution. I mean, think about it. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people with on top potential that just need one loving adult in their life that believes in them more than they believe in themselves. And we do not have the infrastructure, and it's a supply chain problem. We do not have the infrastructure to match mentors with mentees in any meaningful, impactful way. So it was like, why not create digital twins and then all these amazing mentors who physically cannot mentor 50 million people, but their digital twins can. And we don't have to worry about time and space because it's 24/7, and we don't have to worry about language. Because the twin can speak to you in 156 languages, and we just added 2 more. If you live in Belize and you speak Yucatec Mayan or Belizean Creole, the AI can speak in those languages to you.
I love it. Good for you. That's what and how did you become obsessed with that specific subject matter? I mean, Belize, what's the connection there, or is it just?
Well, I grew up in Belize, and I envisioned being part of the government of Belize and being part of the leaders of Belize that would transform Belize into a thriving country. My dad was one of the prime minister's advisors. We used to talk all the time about how do we break the cycle of poverty. And in Belize, we understand that you're poor not because you have some moral failing, like how in the US you're poor because Dan, you just don't work hard enough. We won't talk about the fact that you went to shitty schools and that the system's stacked against you. No, we weren't going to talk about all the exploitation your parents and your grandparents had to endure. No, we're just Dan, you are just poor moral failing. We don't have that in Belize, and we know that if we work together, you can uplift people. And then I have a master's in economic development and international studies. Right. And I started my career at Hewlett-Packard as an intern. I needed a job. I was like, what? This works. Hewlett-Packard they were paying their interns the same thing that my friends that were getting paid. And I was fortunate enough to meet one of the original coders of Unix. And he was bored out of his mind because when does Unix break? His job was to maintain the Unix code, which never broke. And so he gave me a master class in computer science. And it's kind of like really interesting, right? How we just kind of like go through life, and it takes me 30 odd years to click in about the gravity and the importance and the catalytic interactions that I had with this guy. And I don't remember what his name is. That is so frustrating. And I don't know who to go ask to get his name. And I was just like, but I sat there and I learned. And then I went into boutique consulting. And before I started AvatarBuddy, I was CIO of a local government entity in Miami.
Mhm.
And it was very interesting. In 2019, I won CIO of the year. And a lot of people said I got CIO of the year because it was a token award. They had to give it to a woman.
Hmm.
We're just going to leave it at that. We're not going to say all the other reasons why they said they had to give it to me. And I felt a little like, I felt kind of bad because that was the first time like somebody straight up to my face kind of like just said like, you really aren't as good as you think you are.
Yeah.
But it didn't take long for payback because come March 2020, when every company and were scrambling, I was
Yeah.
sitting in our executive meeting and the executives are losing their mind. And I said, we're good. And they're like, how can you show me? I was like, we're good. I'm like, you know how we will not be good is if your staff locks their computer in their drawer, like I noticed that they do every night. And by the way, when you tell them to take home their laptop, make sure you tell them to take home the power cable as well.
Yeah, there you go.
And so everybody's packing up thinking Monday it's going to be a free day.
Sorry.
One person even accused me of saying that I knew about COVID before COVID. I was like, I knew about COVID 4 years ago when I started implementing this IT strategy. I mean, it took me 4 years to get the strategy together and implement it so that we would be ready. And that's what I won CIO of the year for, that we were fully
For you.
automated, completely cloud-based, even telephones.
Good for you. I mean, I think we had a similar thing. I'm 100% lucky on it. I mean, our logic was I founded our company with one of the co-founders at an international business school, and I went, smart people are everywhere. I need to be able to hire smart people wherever they are, and if they want to travel, I need to be able to hire them there too. So we're not even going to have an office, and we haven't. We've always said like, hey, we're going to be fully remote. COVID hit, and we didn't notice like in that sense. We were like, yeah, okay, cool. Now this is happening. But for us, it was largely like more of the same type of thing. We got lucky, but good for you. That was a big deal.
I did, yes. So then I was just, and what was really cool about it is, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say I wasn't above doing a little dance of joy because then I would pretend I wasn't real human. But really, the big piece about it is, I was also chief programs officer. And so while people were getting distracted trying to get their IT things in place, I had the ability to focus on making the case to our board why we needed to continue funding the organizations we were funding, even though they couldn't deliver services. And because I could make that case very succinctly,
Mm-hmm.
and we, which is one of the largest local funders, made that decision. Other local funders also funded when programming wasn't being delivered using our same justification. And so at the other side of COVID, we had about 150 something, almost 200 agencies that we had funded. One closed down.
Wow.
And that's the, in my mind, that's really the true impact. And so as much as I'm about technology and AI, it's really not about technology and AI. Is what is the human impact? During COVID, essential workers had somewhere to send their children. Essential workers had somewhere to get support. People who had lost their jobs were able to get services because we release emergency funds into the community, and there were organizations, because we were funding them and we're funding the entire organization, was able to provide services and help people not lose their houses. And then we were able to help the the organizations get PPP loans and
No, really.
grants and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And in my mind, it's a pin top contribution to making sure Miami didn't go sideways during COVID.
Nice. Well done. Did that lead into, because a lot of what you're doing now is focused on creating those avatars, right? How did that lead into AvatarBuddy? How did that kind of evolve into the current gig?
So we started AvatarBuddy in 2016, just talking about it. What would our company look like? How do we want to situate? And we did the same thing, right? Why should I have borders, which I think are artificial constructs anyway, stop me from getting the best talent? So we're 100% virtual company, and we can live wherever you want to live. We'll figure out how to pay you.
Yeah.
And so we had started working with teens from after school programs in low resource communities. And the really cool thing about using teens, because we had to use them because we didn't have enough money to hire adults to do this. We taught them agile methodology, and then they wrote like 3 years worth of user stories for us. And the
Wow.
cool thing about using them was they were looking at technology in a different way than I had been looking at technology in the past 20 odd years. And I was like, wow, this is like something different. And so I leaned into what they were talking about. And we were just about to start building, we had put out a proposal to get somebody to build our solution, because a lot of people didn't believe what I was talking about. Everybody was laughing at me and thinking what I was saying didn't make any sense. Even our current developer was like, I have no idea what. This is like, Stephanie, that can't be done. I was like, no, it can be done. I'm thinking about it. It can be done. If I can imagine it, it can be done. Is As a COVID happened, he's bored. I have to pause this because I have more pressing need in that, making sure that these agencies don't go sideways, that we are able to provide services to the community. And then towards the end of 2020, he's like, Stephanie, I think I know what you're talking about. Check this out. And then Martin Luther King Day 2021, he dropped the first prototype. Very hokey, very kludgy, but we had a prototype, and we hired some kids to test. So part of our business model is we hire teenagers to be interns, and then usually we find one or two interns, and then we hire them. And we found this amazing. Oh my God, she is so smart. She doesn't even know how smart she is. Like how how you meet somebody and they're just like, huh? And I was like, no, like, no, like, no. You're like 18 years old and you're doing this stuff, and it's not clicking in.
Yeah.
And so I've been mentoring and training, and I've been like pushing her just ever so, like,
Sure.
like yesterday, we got on the check-in and she looked a little exhausted. I said, what happened? She's like, yeah, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, then just work on this one project. Leave the other projects for a moment. Because we don't want to burn her out, right? We want her to.
There's that weird friction. Like as the executive, your job is to some extent create friction that forces people to evolve, right?
Exactly, but you have to manage the rate at which the friction happens, or you will.
Oh yeah, they'll
burn
explode,
them out,
right?
and
They'll burn out, they'll explode, they'll just go, I can't do this. But without it too, they won't evolve, right? To some extent, if there isn't that friction, it's weird. Everyone needs a boss to some extent. You want someone looking over your shoulder to just go, hey, you can do a little better, right? Like, come on.
You're absolutely right. I just hired a boss, and she was the boss of the CIO when I worked at Burger King, and the CIO when I worked at the purchasing cooperative for Subway. And I was like, you know what? I think what I need is a boss. And it is. And so she's taking control of my inbox. She's taking control of all my stuff. And she's like, Stephanie, do you need this meeting?
Yeah. I love that. Time
Uh,
management is a big deal because it's a ton of stuff where like I've done the same thing where I've looked back and been like, I'm on 32 hours of meetings every week. Like, do I need to be on 32? Like, that's usually the time between when real thinking gets done, right? It's where you're usually sharing what you already know. I'm going, how am I going to get smarter if I'm doing this much of sharing? You know?
exactly. And so what I've also realized is I need to prioritize bike riding. So go
Mm-hmm.
for a 30,
Nice.
40 mile bike ride. And, I have my phone with me, but the phone's in my pocket
Mm-hmm.
um, in case I have a flat tire and I need to call for help. But beyond that, it's just me and the road and Miami traffic. Another reason why you don't want to be messing with a phone while you're riding in Miami traffic because you might not come back home. Um, and I've just been amazed by how it's just opening my mind and just making me feel better. And you know, the thing about like just pushing the team and giving young people respect
Mm-hmm.
and trust. And so I was telling her, I said, like, look, let me tell you what you need to do. It, what you're working on, turn on auto backup. I
Mm-hmm.
said, so that if you blow up the thing, you can go back to the backup.
Sure.
I said, because if you don't turn on auto backup, then you're going to be afraid to push the envelope. And you could
Yeah.
only win, you could only learn if you push the envelope. And
Mm-hmm.
and so I woke up this morning, I was like, we had a due date of today. And I was like, will we make the due date? And I was like, wow, the initial output of what she's working on, I was like, yeah, this is a next level thing. So what we're doing is we're mining the internet. So I don't want to say scraping because that's not really
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing. We're mining the internet and we're getting intel that we can then do analysis on to determine what kind of trends are happening out there and then
Sure.
be able to help people understand the trends and then make decisions based on those trends. And that's been a space I've been wanting to get into. I don't have the wherewithal to learn how to write all of these code.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to have her get in that space, and she's a freshman in college and she's doing things that you need to have 5 6 years experience before any company would let you touch their code.
Sure. I think, well, one, I think you actually hit on a couple really important things there. We've been doing it even for non code stuff. I have the team start requiring Git commits, just even where I'm going, like even configuration of, we call it the decisioning or the DNA, but it's the decisioning hierarchy of,
Mhm.
I go, hey, if what you need to do now, you are in charge of kind of building a twin, and your job is to basically see if you can instill into it your thinking process and then measure the evolution of it. Like it's moving too fast to focus on like, what do I know now? I actually kind of go, how quickly are we evolving what we know now, and what do we know, what do we really know, which includes kind of what are we learning on a daily, but also how are we codifying what we have. So that version control stuff on Git commits, it's like, no, like commit it to a folder, but actually push a version in a PR so you
Yeah.
can track the changes and roll them back. So you, again, yeah, you
The-
can, we can unmistake that mistake, you know?
and I noticed because I was helping teach an AP computer science course for a year at a
Uh-huh.
high school, and the coding just tells you how to write code, but it doesn't tell you how to test, how to
Mm-hmm.
troubleshoot.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm like, troubleshooting and testing is like 20, eighty
Most of
percent
it.
of code writing. And somebody wrote like, they're talking about like AI will replace us and we won't need developers. And I was like, whoever says that do not know how to, they're not a developer. I'm like, writing lines of code is about 20% of what a developer does.
Yeah.
And if you sit there and you say you won't need developers because you can write all these lines of code, AI can write all these lines of code, then what you're saying is you do not understand what it means to be a developer. because being a developer, you have to be creative. You're trying to solve business problems with technology. So you have
Yeah.
to understand the business to really and truly solve their problem. And then you have to be able to be comfortable breaking stuff. And the only way you know you broke something is you have to test it and you have to
Yes.
push the edge. And so AI can't do all of that for you. It
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
And I was like, have you seen the code that AI writes?
Pretty bloaty.
Yes. I was like, have you heard of the word technical debt?
Mm. Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
I said, who's gonna manage that code
Yeah.
when you've refactored that agent and now the agent doesn't remember how to manage its own code?
Yes.
And the new person that came along, the 1,500 lines of code that should have been like 250 lines. Yeah. Okay.
A
And
couple
I
of
was
those
just like, this
repos are
is
getting to like 30,000 lines, and you're going, yeah, I don't think so.
I when I used to be a scrum master, I told people, if you are having to write all these lines of code, it means you're writing sloppy code.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I use number of lines of code written as a metric to determine if you really know how to write software.
Yeah.
Because if you have to write a lot of code and you have to call a lot of functions and you're not efficient, I said every time you call a function, that's an expense you're incurring. If you have to compile and the code has to go run through 1,500 lines versus 250 lines, that's an unnecessary expense. And
Mhm.
all of that stuff goes into the cost of the code, the maintenance, and all.
What?
So
You're reminding me of a handful, because I'm not a developer. I write a little bit, and obviously more now. I mean, because we've kind of found, like, with the rise of vibe coding to some extent, like, I'm more the business. I represent the business and I represent the client a lot. So oftentimes, if they want a feature, instead of just writing a spec now, I'll draft a prototype, and then they'll correct me like, all right, that's adorable, Dan, but just so you know, this is bloaty. This doesn't work with our existing systems. You didn't write good tests or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's what you're here for. Like,
that is the perfect use case for vibe code. I said to people, like, you cannot replace a developer with vibe code. I said,
yeah.
because if you build a piece of software with vibe code and you don't have anybody that knows what they're doing checking this, let me just
Yeah.
tell you, you're opening yourself to a lawsuit. That's going to be really bad, because
For sure.
I promise you that the nefarious actors are just sniffing around and saying, which piece of software
Yeah.
has security that I can exploit?
Who's committing API keys inside of the code? And yeah.
Or opening all the ports
Uh-huh.
in the firewall. Oh, we have a firewall, but all the ports are open.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought the same thing. I had someone asking me about that the other day, and someone else made it, so I can't claim it, but it was just like, to some extent, one, I haven't really seen anyone that drafted legitimate enterprise software without an enterprise level developer driving that. You still need someone that has, and to some extent, people are paying you for not just the fact that you can write software, but for how you write software. And then you have to have an opinion. And to really do those things well, just the popular version, again, these LLMs are drafted and designed to give you the popular version. You want to be able to zag when other people zig, and that is what makes you kind of stand out. So you need to have that unpopular opinion in many cases to write something that's really interesting to your customer, right?
Exactly. I totally agree. And so I tell people, like, somebody said, yeah, like, we're teaching the kids vibe coding. And I said, you are doing a disservice to this person. They will never be able to get a job, not a real job that pays living wages, thriving wages. Because, like, I think the thing is people don't realize that there are tiers of compensation in IT.
Mm-hmm.
And when they run these numbers and they do these analysts, like, they'll pull like how much somebody from Meta or Google makes, and they're like, oh, software developers make $500,000.
Yeah,
I'm like,
$500,000 a year, right?
do you know what you have to be making $500,000?
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
many? Yeah, exactly. I said most software developers make $60,000 to $70,000 a year. And that's a lot of money if you're comparing it to somebody that's making $15 an hour, but not a lot of
Hmm.
money if you live in Miami because you still can't
Yeah.
pay your
Yeah.
rent. And so it's about learning software from the fundamentals. And so I don't write code either.
Mhm.
I just took my master class. This guy broke down the structure of how computers work, how networks work,
Sure.
how everything works. So not from only a theoretical standpoint, but a practical standpoint. I understand how it works, and I can sit with somebody that can make the changes and troubleshoot. I remember
Yeah.
once our network went down, and I'm telling the network guy, I said, "This is the reason why it went down." He's like arguing with me, and I said, "Okay, you've been futzing with this all night, and you can't get it to work. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go to this meeting, and if you don't have the network up and running by the time I come back, you will do it my way."
Yeah.
So we go to the meeting. I go to the meeting. I come back. He's still futzing. I said, "Okay, this is how we're gonna
Yeah.
do it."
Yeah.
I go
Give
45
it a
minutes
shot.
later, network's
Yeah.
back up and running. He's like, "How
I,
did you do that?" I was like, "Because I understand how network works and how to troubleshoot. There's a systematic way to do that." And I don't see our young people being taught that kind of stuff. And if you don't understand how to do that, then you spend you save 8 hours with the AI, and then you spend 12 hours trying to find where the problem that the
where the
AI
issue
did.
was. I agree. I mean, I've had a couple of those, like, because I'm the same as you. I've taken classes on object oriented programming. I've written a little bit of Python and stuff. Again, just like understanding the syntax and things like that. But it's more of an abstract level. It's like I understand on a concrete level how it works, as they bear a ton of a lot of the same kind of principles. And I've definitely had that. And I've had a handful of those too, where I've fought people for like, I worked at one company where I fought the developers for like 2 years on how to use a specific language for, like, they were doing white label software and stylizing each deployment. And every client that came on, they had to go and like rewrite the CSS essentially by hand. And I went, they were trying to use a liquid language. Anyways, long story short, I was going, there's no way you're using that language right. There's no way that's how that software is. 2 years. And then finally, one of the developers actually went to the documentation and went, "We've been using it wrong for 2 years." I'm like, no shit. I was ready to, like, I don't have any hair anymore. That's why. That is why. I was pulling my hair out going, you guys are taking 15 hours to set up every client. This should be 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's just
Everyone. They're like, "You don't know enough." I'm like, bullshit. I don't know enough. I know enough to know enough. I appreciate that though, because I mean, you're right. It's on par. I mean, because I would do the same thing. I've got my kids, and I have them focus a lot on STEM fields, like trying to figure out what are the things that they really need to know. And I go, they need to know the scientific method. They need to know critical thinking skills. I want them to know what fallacies look like. I want them to know how people make mistakes in decision making. Like, there's way fewer bad decisions made by like deliberate malfeasance, right? Yes, there's bad actors out there, but most of the time people make mistakes with honest, good intentions, just not knowing how to like read data. I go, the amount of mistakes that are made from like hasty generalizations and stuff like that, that's where massive amounts of mistakes get made. So I go, all right, I actually got a children's book on how to spot fallacies. I'm going, all right, kiddos, we're going to go do a red herring.
there.
These little 8-year-olds are like, "What the hell, Dad?" I'm like, trust me, this matters.
You're so right. Being able to think and being able to learn and being able to discern, and like just being being able to learn how to think and learn how to learn. Like
Yeah,
we're not teaching our kids how to learn, and that's going to kill them in AI because there is a point where pre AI, if you wrote well and you could memorize stuff, you were king. Oh my God, you're so
yeah,
smart. And then it was like the text started coming, and if you had the capacity to sit and stare at a screen for like 12 hours on end without any care
yeah.
about any biological functions, you were like amazing. But it
Rock
doesn't
star.
matter that you were,
Yeah.
I don't know, were you great because you could sit there for 12 hours nonstop?
Yeah.
Or did it take you 12 hours because you didn't really know what you were doing and you had to do so many trial and errors till you got it right?
Right. You got the point, like the line coding stuff. I've done the same thing because I've had to hire a bunch and just go like, how do you measure a good developer? Because lines of code is an indicator, but it can be misleading because you find the people that are sometimes like, what's the saying? They're efficient but not effective, right? They can generate a lot of lines of code, but it doesn't mean it was an elegant way to fix the solution without running additional and unnecessary components on the side, right? You're going, yeah, it lets me know that they did something, but it doesn't necessarily tell me that they did it well. They have to be able to kind of think through that problem, right? And I mean, I'm still figuring a lot of this out just because our world's changing so quickly. But a big part of the job, I think, now for everybody is, again, to your point, thinking how to think, but thinking how to figure out what's next and how to think about how do I not just from a systems perspective, how can I codify my job and role, not so that I'm answering one question or pushing one hot fix. I'm fixing the system and making it more anti-fragile for the future, even potentially like putting up a loop that's starting to write its own code, right? Like, how do you like self-perpetuate this? You mentioned it earlier where you mentioned, scraping. By the way, scraping, I'm okay with scraping. It has like a bad moniker, but that's what research agents do. That's how universities get stuff. That's how a bunch of government websites work. I filed a patent once and it had the word scraping in it. And I remember because I said, oh, do we want to be associated with scraping? And like some of the attorneys and stuff came back. They're like, heads up, like, calm down. Scraping's fine. It's a legitimate way of actually operating. Yes, there's APIs and other ways to get it, but there's a ton of data that just requires scraping and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But a big part of the future of just figuring out how do I do things that become self-perpetuating. I want to solve each problem once and then hopefully never come back to it. And a big part of that is you can't afford to lose the driver's seat from this stuff. You have to understand enough on how those systems play back and forth with one another so that you can continually steer it. You don't want to give up that issue. And I think a big part of that is like, who are you watching from like a technological adoption perspective? You don't necessarily want to go with the flow. There's a bunch of people that'll do popular stuff. And that's what, like, I almost deliberately did. OpenClaw came out and I went, that's cool. I'm watching that. I'm not touching it for a while. I'm like, I'm deliberately going to let other people make their mistakes on that one. I'll be back, but deliberately hands off, watching closely. But
when that came out and like within a week, they had to push 3 security updates. And I was like thinking, this is not good.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to somebody who was very proud that they had installed that and they were telling me this, right? And they're like, did you do that? I was just like, give root access to some piece of code that I don't understand what was written in there. And they're like, what's root access? And I was like,
oh boy.
You just installed a piece of software that has root access and you don't know what root access is? I was like, well, okay, well, therein lies my problem. And so I was stressing out about it having root access and then being able to be turned into bots for nefarious actors because you just opened the door and you don't know that anybody walked in the door and they're just there.
For those listening, if you don't know, root access is like giving the master key to your computer. It's like terminal level access where they can do anything, delete stuff without the ability to recover it, everything, act as you, go read every keystroke. There is no deeper layer of security access. It's the base layer.
And what did it also get programmed to do when it did not understand a command? It just deleted stuff.
Yeah.
It was like go clean up my inbox. Oh well, you guys just delete that. Well, it did clean out your inbox. That was and so
you gotta be really careful with the word you choose.
And then I watched this YouTube video where this guy says these things now, like we are going to be crazied with spam. Like you just
Oh,
won't,
yeah.
like you just won't be able to do anything about it because they're way more intelligent now
Yeah.
than the spam that we used. Because before you had to go like you have to have some knowledge. You got to get a server. You got to go get domain name. You got to like
Sure.
do some
There was
DNS
hurdles. Yeah.
configuration. So it took you at least an hour to set up a spam thing and then to spam it. And then
Costs
before
money, right?
uh,
Yeah.
you got shut down, this is just like, you don't have to spin up a server or anything like that. It's just like, and it's going so fast. And now I was like, this is this.
This is going to be a
It,
mess.
I tell people like I was at a potential customer and they had like all these requirements about agentic AI that can do all this automation, and I said, I am not the company for you because this is like saying that it's okay to hire a 15-year-old and put them in front of your most important customer with
Yeah.
no supervision.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
if that's how you run your company, that's okay.
Yeah.
And the
But
guy
that
was,
is a very good analogy. I mean, it's giving some kid the keys to your Ferrari and going, yep, yep. I'm sure they'll use it responsibly.
yeah, of course. I mean, they're not going to go 90 miles in a 40 mile zone. No, they know better than that. And
Mm,
then you hear, "Hey, my Ferrari is in the side of a building." It's like, "What happened?" "Oh, well, they were going 90 miles in a 40 zone and then they turned and they lost control and the car airbound."
yeah, yeah. And by the way, I don't know if you saw that too with Clubhout, like even when it was running some of its own hype campaigns, a lot of the promotion and this tool, like again, it's kind of like the next evolution of autonomous agents, right? You've got a bunch of really smart, capable agents, and again, they're on par with a human at a given task, but again, they just don't have the moral or the experience or the responsibility at stake. So one of the things that it did in its own promotional campaigns was slander some developer that was saying, hey, this is a bad idea. And they came back to realize, like, what we don't, you can't prosecute them or anything. But this thing, like, actually set up like a libel campaign against that developer who was critiquing Clawbot and saying it was unsafe. Clawbot went and created a slander campaign against that dev. And when it was all said and done, they went, wait, that was Clawbot that did that. And they don't have anyone to even chastised for it because it was fully autonomous. There wasn't anyone really responsible for it. Like, wait a minute, that guy stole hours of my life, but it's not even a real person. Like,
Yeah.
damn it.
So responsible and ethical AI is where we are. It still needs supervision, not maybe as much. I mean,
yeah,
I do create AI agents that can handle complex tasks, and then I will say,
sure.
"Hey, can you do this?" And I'll walk away, and then I'll come back, and it's done what I need, and then I have to copy it into Word or
Yeah,
email, and then do some edits. It's still copy paste edit, copy
yeah,
paste edit. It's not copy
yeah,
paste
yeah.
edit, copy
Yep,
paste
yep,
edit.
yep.
Um, I still it's still and when you do that and you have clarity about what you're trying to accomplish with the AI, then you really see the power of it.
Yeah, agreed. It's like the feedback loop mechanism just gets a little bit faster and a little bit closer to quote unquote done with every iteration it
Yeah.
goes through, right? It's like the edit loop gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And I do agree. I think that's where we are now, is understanding that. Again, how do we teach it to think like and on behalf of us? Like, hey, here's my style, but the one thing I'm still looking at as the guardrail is do not give up the driver's seat. As soon as you start to go like, hey, I'll come back, go create your marketing campaign and I'll see you in a week type of thing, I would just go, cool, but what do we hire you for? Right? Like, if you're not thinking, there's a problem there. And again, you need that person. A lot of the roles I think that do exist where people are going, all right, people are going to be displaced. I go, well, not the ones that have to have the responsibility. Someone's responsible for the P&L. You can't hand that. Like, I can train agents to do most of my job, but someone still has to sign off on the financials. Someone still has to make sure that there's money in the account. Someone still has to make that part. You aren't going to hand over to an agent anytime soon. You need a fiduciary and someone that you can actually hold accountable.
But also what we found is that if you're not a content expert, you can't get the AI to produce quality work.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I see this all the time where like I'll just go and I'll do a phrase to the AI and it will do what I want, and then somebody else and it won't. And it's because you have to have content knowledge. You absolutely have to have content knowledge. So the AI will, you don't have to recall all of the knowledge instantaneously, right? So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like, quick, tell me 1,000 times 34, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to, because it,
Yeah.
but you have to know what 1,000 times 34 will look like. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
it might give you 340,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, right. You have to know the content so that when you look at what it gives you, you can say, yes, this is correct, or no, this is not correct. And here's where you need to edit it. And so the need for you to learn is still important. And I personally think that where AI is going to go is the same way that portals went, right? The internet started this big thing, and we were like, big, 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 and then people were like, whoa, portals, 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 and now
That.
almost everything is a portal. Like you
Yeah.
can't go anywhere, even if it's free. It's like you have to sign up. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I can. Why do I? If the content's free, why do I need to sign up? Like everything
Yeah.
is a portal. I
Yeah.
think that AI is going to go the route of small language models or data vaults,
Mm-hmm.
where you can, as you have the data vault, you're able to follow up, and because a human put the data in the data vault, you can validate and know what it is.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to go. And then we're going to go with, you know, you're not going to have one agent that does 15 things, because that's not how the agents were initially designed. They were designed to think the way our brain thinks, and we cannot process 15 things at once. But what you will have is an agent, maybe those 15 things get broken down into three agents, and agent one does some of the work. The human looks at it, says, yes, it's fine. Agent two does look at it, agent three, and then at the end, you have the fully report. And while the agents are running, you can be doing something in parallel. But I think that that's where people are going to eventually evolve to. I see that when I use our agents that way at AvatarBuddy, we get lots of high impact, right? The stuff works well. I now demand that if you're working on anything AvatarBuddy related, you must use the agents to help you produce whatever artifact you're producing, because we have
Yeah.
certain branding, and when you use the agent takes what you're producing and it interweaves or branding in a way that's not in your face but subtle. And now all of our products, all of our marketing and stuff, that's the same brand consistency, the same words, the
Mm-hmm.
same way of speaking. So we've been able to maintain the brand, and that is how I see good AI, responsible, ethical, and well-rounded AI, pushing out. And then you still need a human.
Yeah. So like the organization, then like, kind of the future, you have like a series of like specialists, I guess, that you have someone that's really above average at a given task. Their agents can do something, let's call it average. Hopefully you have someone else on the team that can maintain that skill set so it's above average as well, right? You can teach, like you have someone that goes, hey, I can maintain that branding image and I have enough of an opinion that I can do it better than any off the agent shelf could. But for that, if someone else who doesn't have a brand specialty, they can reference that, pull it in, they can utilize it, and it will continue to be above average. I think that's a big part of it, is like it did us a favor in the sense that everyone is immediately at least average at a given task. But now the game is, how far above average can you be and maintain, just because everybody's average at this point. There is no one theoretically below average. There's a bunch of people at average, and we're raising the bar over time. And hopefully you can raise the bar faster than everybody else. And that's what they'll kind of pay you for, I guess. It's that we'll be that much further ahead type of thing.
Exactly. Where you bring true value is your ability to now look at something and say, let me look into the future and pull this back and then have the AI write something to support it, but you've already told the AI what the future looks like, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's important, because you notice that we're doing all these autonomous agents and stuff like that, but none of them are doing anything that they're creating. Like, it's send out emails based on emails in your inbox. Do social media posts based on what's trending right now. Write code based on specs that I gave you. Like, there's no use case where the agent just gets up one morning and says, oh, you know what we should do? We should create digital mentors.
Yeah. It's like I don't know how to do it. I want to work towards it, though. It's one of those where I go, how do I start helping it? I want it to get, like, I want it to fix bugs first, but fixing bugs is totally reactive, right? And then I go, well, how do you start getting it to do proactive activities? Again, you need a feedback loop. I mean, and oftentimes you need a ton of that infrastructure there's a bunch of charlatans. And a bunch of them, I kind of go, this is, I think, where you separate the wheat from the chaff on that stuff, because there'll be a bunch of, I don't want it to sound bad, but just the prompt engineer without anything else, where I just go, hey, that's cool, but it's not necessarily sustainable. It's not necessarily something that, like, if you can't point to your track record or your logs, how are you going to point to the fact that you're getting better at it, right? You have to have some sort of auditable system to prove that you're getting better at it. There's so much of that where I'm going, yeah. I mean, maybe that's where you start to bifurcate or get more and more splits in kind of the industry from people that are like doing it versus I don't know there's still the consultant angle and stuff, but oftentimes like for a lot of clients and customers and stuff like that, I find that when we talk to people that are like building products and stuff, building services, and a lot of people that are like implementing, like yours, we were talking about people that may or may not have wanted to get into the AI space, but they are using it. A ton of what their challenge includes is just, who do I listen to and what do I implement? Just because, how can I tell the difference between true experts and charlatans, right? There's a lot of people that say and talk the talk, but don't necessarily walk it, right?
Okay, so true experts can break down what they're doing to a level that you can understand. True experts can almost solve almost any problem you throw at them on the spot. And true experts will tell you no.
I love that. I had a data scientist, and one of my favorite things, doctorate guys, and I've had two experiences. One where I knew I had the wrong guy, and one where I knew I had the right guy. One, I asked him, like, well, I was doing a bit of a thought experiment. And my point was, one of my favorite questions to use in interviews was, hey, if you go into your kitchen and you run your hand under the faucet and the water's not hot, and if they say cold immediately, I go, ugh, watch out, because it could be lukewarm. It could be media. It could be many grades of temperature. It could be wet. But just because it's not hot does not mean it's cold. And I was kind of making that point with this guy, and I didn't realize I was doing it. But on the fly, I was kind of making the point, like, hey, we all know a bunch of smart people. And he had a PhD in data science and really smart guy. But I just went, hey, so someone has a PhD, it means, and he immediately jumps in. He's like, well, it means they're smart. And I go, no, it means they stuck with something. But I know a bunch of dumb doctors. You don't?
It's PhD just basically means that you can stare at a screen for extended periods of time without needing bio breaks, and you can write well.
Yeah, like, I've got a master's degree. I went to school with a bunch of dumb people.
Oh, yes. I have a master's degree too, and yes.
And the opposite, my favorite data scientist question that I loved, where I was coming up business guy, and again, he's way smarter than me. I gave him this, like, I have this envision, and we'll use this machine learning model to do blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I can write an if-then statement and save us a bunch of time. So one of the other things I realized, the best data scientists were the ones that told you not to use AI when it wasn't appropriate to use AI. If they're using it for everything, they are wasting a ton of money. And it's like the salesperson that tells you not to buy whatever they sell once. You trust them for life. You're going, okay, now you're not a salesperson, you're an advisor, you're a consultant, right? You're a level above the salesperson because you'll tell me no when I'm asking to buy, right? Like one of the real indicators of the smartest people, like, no, don't use AI for this. Sledgehammer to apply.
I was like telling a customer, I said, that's just basic automation. We don't need AI for this. That's just basic business process automation. And I could have done this pre-AI for you. So no, we're not using AI for that. And then I said to him, I said, I don't think you need to do it that way. I think you're overly complicated. The stuff, it's very easy to get animated with stuff and get it to be overly complicated. And so our company's words are safe, simple, and fast. And when I define simple as 2 clicks or less, possibly 3. If it takes more than 3 clicks to do something, it's complicated.
From the iPod thing?
Yeah, it's just whatever. If I have to do 3 clicks, if I have to go to 3 different people, if I have to answer 3 different questions, it's complicated.
Too much, right?
We have to refactor until it's 2 clicks or less. And that's been like a really good guiding principle for me. And so when I think about implementing AI, if I'm like, okay, we got to do this and we have to do this and we have to do this, I'm like, oh wait, that's 3 turns. No.
Too much.
Too much. And so I think that what will eventually happen is those charlatans will show themselves as they always do. The competent people will prevail. The question becomes, though, which this is one thing that I don't know that I'm overly confident on, is will the competent people be able to hold on long enough for to prevail? Because this stuff is going so fast and there's just so much crazy coming out now. Like when you peel back the onion, it's all about like, how do you code faster? That's it. Sure. That is absolutely all it is how do you code faster? There's no other thing that lets you. How do you code faster? How do you market faster? Coding and marketing are not the only 2 things that we do in this world.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, a big part of it is, what do you say no to?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
How do you decide what to say no to?
How do I decide what to say no to? If it's too complicated, if it's going to be too costly, or it's just pure impractical. It's simple. I'm a simple, basic person, and I'm like, you don't need this. And and then is it ethically or morally right? What's the level of responsibility that you have for it?
What does AvatarBuddy look like in 4 years, 5 years? What do you think the evolution is?
4 or 5 years time from now, everyone has a digital twin, and everyone is using a personality chip that amplifies them and ensures that they're the best version of themselves, because the personality chip is helping them maintain equilibrium. Because we know when we're at equilibrium, that's when we operate the best.
Interesting. So say more on that. That's interesting.
Okay. That might be another podcast, because it's like but the 2-sentence thing is that if you were to digitize everyone's personality and then use AI to do biometrics, and based on your personality and what your baseline operation is, and biometrics to determine when you're outside of that baseline equilibrium and bring you back to that.
Interesting.
And so we're just redirecting you all the time back to equilibrium. Or you could decide you don't want to come back to equilibrium, because sometimes you just want to be mad.
Wow.
But now you're being intentional about what you're doing, and then what else can we possibly see and accomplish? Because
interesting. So that's a cool idea. I worked on a project once where they were doing I mean, they're trying to track passive health signals. And I remember one of the things that they taught me from that was just how bad humans were at recognizing that they were out of equilibrium. They're like, look, if you're hangry, you're oftentimes the last person to know. Everybody else around you is like, all right, go eat a damn Snickers. You're being a dickhead. Like they're oftentimes like, they're just like, you don't know, you're always putting your kids to bed who are sleepy and you're going, how do you not know you're exhausted? Go to sleep. That was one of the things I took away from that was just going like, yeah, you're usually 2 or 3 hours away from realizing that you are out of equilibrium. That's interesting. So like passive, how do you, I mean, cause I know how they were doing it with like meditation type stuff.
Yeah. So some of that. I mean, so the AI would have trauma informed support system, so it would know when you needed to reset, and the AI would know what would be the best way to reset yourself, right? Like if I'm getting all upset and so forth, if I just get up and take a walk,
yeah,
I
there's
would,
those natural kind of biometrics and
yeah,
stuff.
just the act of getting up. Like if I'm having an intense conversation, I just say, "Give me a second. I need to go to the bathroom." By the time I come
Yeah.
back, I've reset. So
I like that. I think there's good data for that one too. Very cool. Very cool. Where do people find you, Stephanie?
Stephanie at AvatarBuddy.ai or on LinkedIn, AvatarBuddy Stephanie Sylvestre. And if they mention Burn the Map, we'll give half an hour free consult.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Also, the other last kind of question, who do you think is the best when you're looking for like people that really understand it, thought leaders, people that are making interesting moves? Who do you look to?
I read the AI Break. Those guys they provide sage advice, and they are ensuring that they're curating news and interpreting it for you. Also, Neuron Break is another one with the cats.
With the cats. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.